Hey you guys, welcome back. This is Ashley from One Love Woodwork. So happy to have you with us today. We are going to be making a desktop. This customer has ordered this product and plans to use their own metal legs with it. So we're going to just be creating the custom top out of rustic reclaimed wood. So thanks so much for being here. We're super in creating this reclaimed rustic desktop is to actually look through the lumber that we have here on hand at the shop and pull some pieces that we think are going to be a good fit. Out here we have a pretty good selection of ambrosia maple. There's a variety of different woods off to the right, but for this desktop we're mainly going to be using ambrosia maple. So we have stacked these outside as overflow, but I'm looking for approximately 5 to 6 inch wide pieces. So this would be a good example of a piece to start with. But I'll show you, just for the sake of what we're working with here, the variety in the width. And this is such a cool wood to work with because you can see a lot of the features come out of it. And then we'll get into some of this more wormy looking, curly looking version of the same kind of wood. This would be a good piece to use too. You see it tapers a little at the end, which might be more of a pain than it's worth, but you can see in here, this is natural coloring, very similar to the beetle kill pine that's popular here in Colorado. This is caused by a worm that gets in here and then creates a fungus. The fungus actually runs with the grains, and you can see these grains in these blues and sometimes even a pink or a red. This kind of ambrosia maple varies in the grades depending on the quality of that, but it really does stain the wood. So it's not like you can get rid of it. In fact, sometimes when you sand and you plane it, you actually get to a different depth of that piece and it shows a totally different feature. So our piece in total is going to be 26 inches deep, and that will include a border piece as well. Now that looks like a cool kind of feature. I'm just thinking about the desktop and how it could be a natural round over. Also, we planned, typically we would use a router bit to round over that edge, but as I find this one, and it needs to be about 5 feet long, that might end up being a piece that we use. So I'm gonna keep that out. And for now, I think we have what we need to start. So you could take a good look at these boards now, because they're not going to look like this very long. So why don't you follow me inside, and we're going to head over to the miter saw. And the miter saw is going to allow us to cut these to approximately the right length. We do want to leave a little bit of room for error, but also for snipe and things that happen when you run it through the planer and the sander and things like that. So instead of cutting these to 5 feet, we'll probably look at doing about 2 inches longer than that. So feel free to follow me in here. All right, so now we have our wood chosen, and I think we have some great pieces to work with. Again, the dimensions of this product are going to be a total of 60 inches long. And so these boards are gonna run horizontally, and we're gonna join them together using some glue and pocket holes, but that'll be later in the process. And for now, since finding this piece outside, I think we're gonna go ahead and use this rustic live edge here and try to preserve it for the purpose of the product and the end result. So out of this long board, which measures closer to 8 feet, I want to say, yeah, 8 and some change, we're looking for about 62 inches is where I feel like we're safe here, and mark that out. And so what I'm going to do is really start just by glancing over at where that feature begins and then locking my tape, because what I want to do is, looks like it starts here and it actually goes all the way down to there. So as luck would have it, that's almost perfect for what we need. It's also important to when these, if you noticed while you're outside, the blue on the ends of these pieces, those are just colored to identify the species for the wholesaler. So by the time it gets to us, we want to make sure we can cut that out. We don't want that blue showing through. That's not a normal blue at all. So I'm going to go ahead and just make these cuts. Again, these are rough dimensions. So we know we have a little bit of extra to work with. And I'm just kind of eyeballing at the same time and making sure we don't have any crazy differences in our edges. All right, so now we are moving on to the next stage. This is our planer next to it. These are both Powermatic machines, helical head cutting blades that make this process really fun, really fast, and really pretty efficient and reliable. So all I'm going to do now is take the boards that we just took, and you can see, if you get a close-up here, how rustic this truly is. I mean, this thing has got hopefully very little or none moisture in it, but that side is super rough. This side is a little bit more smooth, as is this edge compared to this edge. This is the edge that we have that natural live edge on. We're going to preserve that the best we can. We're going to have to work with some hand tools at the end. So all I'm going to do right now to get this ready for the planer is I'm going to surface this side here and then this edge as well, so we know that we have a 90-degree right there. Make sure that we can work off of that for anything in the future. So let's get right into that. Guys, we are now moving on to the planer. This is our 15-inch Powermatic helical head planer that failed us in our last project, but we've brought it back to life. So super excited to have this up and working. This is such a big piece of our shop, and never as more obvious as it was with our last project. So on that note, we're going to jump right in. We are using these reclaimed rustic boards. As you can tell, just the 2 of the 5 that we chose, they have quite a difference as the way that they've warped. Of course, we've stored them outside, which is not ideal, but we have a plan to get them through the planer, and so ultimately we're going to reduce these from approximately 1 inch in depth to about 3/4 of an inch to go ahead with the project. So it'll take a little time to get it perfect, and we're going to do it with these little micro adjustments on this machine. The adjustment over here is super awesome. It's very clear. There are inches on one side and then centimeters on the other. I always use the inch side, but this adjusts it to where we need to, and we can keep a pretty consistent look at all the way down to a 1/16 of an inch what we're doing. So pretty awesome and very reliable in that sense. All right, so I can turn this dust collection on. All right. Grab the board, and it is, so we know it's at least All right, folks, so we got through the joiner and we got through the planer, and now we have our boards. We're moving over to this Super Max drum sander. This thing is the best. It is a 1938, meaning that the belt itself is 19 inches, so in theory you could do 38-inch width surfaces. And inside of here, super easy, we have 180 grit paper. This cylinder rotates, and it takes so much time out of sanding. For me, it's been huge. I've had a physical issue with sanding and muscles in my neck and shoulder, and particularly this has been a lifesaver, and ironically was the first thing we bought as our own shop before we received this very generous gift from our family to help us really launch our business. So without this sander, I don't know if we would have had the intention or motivation to get that far, but here it is in all its glory. So basically it's one of our quieter machines, which is nice. That's on off switch. We'll wait for that to get up to full speed there, which it is. And then this style is so convenient too. It allows the belt to move, and you can adjust it all the way up to 100, and it has a regulator on it as well. So if the piece is going through there and it's feeling too much resistance, it'll actually slow it down a little bit to make sure you're getting the right grit. So this also has a very easy to read depth gauge on it that's in inches. Always my preference. Just more comfortable with that. And like many other tools, it's always just worth getting a piece in there until you start to feel the right. That's maybe a little much. Back it up. And then I can adjust the speed. So that's without the dust collection on. All right, so the next step in this process is to make sure that we have all of our boards the same width. We've come up with a custom design that's going to incorporate some special walnut stain on a lot of this maple, and then we're going to use just some oils to bring out some of the colors that we have in this feature piece here. This is also ambrosia maple, but you can see that it's been affected by this fungus much differently than some of these other boards. So this is gonna we're gonna rip this into a couple different pieces to use as a highlight or a feature that'll run with the rest of the boards, but really the contrast, I think, between this and some of that walnut color, and especially the live edge finish on the front, is going to look super awesome. So anyway, we just want to make sure that we have this edge nice and square. We use that joiner to make sure we have that, so I have a perfectly straight edge to use here as we run these 1 inch and 2 inch cuts. So enjoy. Put my hearing protection on and start the saw. It's gonna get a little noisy and a lot of fun. Alright, so now we are so excited to be outdoors. We're doing sanding on a couple of pieces that we're using as feature pieces, if you will, I guess is one way to describe them, that will be placed within the desk layout. So this client has chosen the special walnut finish, and so these boards will also be joined together to complete the whole desk. But these are ambrosia maple boards. These are previously sanded, stained, they're ready to go. And these ones we just cut on the saw stop. So we need to do a little sanding. We're gonna progress through sanding at a couple different grits. Some of this is pretty rustic. I have three pieces of ambrosia maple in here that we cut from the same larger piece. And in the back here we have a really rustic piece of black walnut that we're just going to shape up the front edge, and this is going to end up being the desk front right here. So right now I'm just using a 150. I may need to go get an 80 or even a wire brush for this, but I kind of just want to see what the sandpaper will do first. So you can see already how it's starting to knock down that top edge. and it's really dry under there. So I think I'm gonna go get a wire brush at some point and we'll keep working on this, but for now, I just wanted to get some of this dirt off, really, to take a look at the wood underneath. These pieces are kind of like the best part, I think, for reclaiming in rustic wood is just when you find something that actually almost got thrown away and realize it could make an amazing addition to a piece. So, you know, we're so fortunate to have the tools and the equipment that is necessary to make all of this wood transform from what is maybe a tree that's dying in the woods to an amazing desk that we're going to have in a restoration of a new office space. So, you know, it's part of the journey, part of the story. I think preserving the story is always important, but also to say that you don't need to have these pieces to complete this project. This project really can be made with wood that you purchase at a store like Home Depot or Lowe's. I always recommend that you go to your local lumber wholesaler or lumber yard and chat with them. Usually you can get pretty good deals and find these unique pieces. I wouldn't really recommend pine for this particular project, but it still would work, especially if you're going to place it on top of something underneath, like maybe an existing desk. We just did that in our house as well, and it's a super fun project. So we're going to move from 150 and then up to 180, and then I'll finish off with some 220. But after that, we're gonna finish with some tung oil on these pieces and really highlight all the natural features, and then we will move on. So enjoy. All right, so we are moving on to the edge pieces. We're gonna frame in this whole desk with some mitered corners, and it's gonna look nice and sharp. Also included in that is the front face, which is where we're using that black walnut, that rustic piece that we're gonna have cleaned up. But around the outside, we're gonna do a contrasting continuation of this ambrosia maple, so it's going to wrap basically around the entire desk on the back side and then on the sides. So I'm going to go ahead and rip those boards now so they're available. Then we're going to scoot over to the table over here, and we have our feature, which is going to be the center of our table set up. We're going to get into just setting that with some glue while we move on to the next part, which is going to be some pocket hole joinery to extend the desk and make it the full width. All right, well, we are on to our gluing phase. We're working on just a center feature right now where we have the alternating colors. So we're gonna do a really good solid glue up on this portion of the desk, and then we'll attach it with pocket holes as it extends out. So for now, I'm just using probably a little overkill, but it's Titebond 3. It's a pretty solid product, and also this really handy device here. We have the piece set up here on these Bessie clamps. These are amazing. They add great pressure, and then once we get it all situated, we're gonna actually have this piece upside down so it'll sit flat, and then we'll put some pressure on the top with alternating clamps as well. So on that note, let's get to gluing, huh? All right, if this comes out, it would kind of be amazing. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to start over here, watch. And we actually wanted to squeeze out. We want a lot of glue, so you can use your fingers if you're a helper here. And you see a spot without glue here. Let me go all the way down. So we're just putting glue on one side right now because I am using this Titebond 3, and we're gonna overkill this glue here. Typically, we do this glue up before we do the staining, but in this sequence it didn't really work out that way, which is kind of fun with woodworking because there's really not any way to do things that's wrong. You can always find help. You can always do things differently. In the end, it's a project that you build, and it's really fun. We kind of have been doing this as we go and coming up with the design, so adjusting as necessary. But it's been a lot of fun, and I think we're on a really good path here. So we are just going down the back of the board. I'll show you in just a second what it looks like, but just really eyeballing where to put these pocket holes. So on the back of the board, they're going to alternate like this. And on this particular board, we're going to connect on both sides, and this will end up being one of our center boards. So the way the pocket hole joinery works is there's specific screws that go into here. They drive into the board next to it and create a perfect joint. So we're going to get into that in just a second. I'm just going to go through and finish pre-drilling what we need to. So this one, just to give you an example of where we're headed, this board will match up here, and you can see how the pre-drill holes are actually pointing this direction. Same thing, so they're alternating, and this one, of course, will continue into the front of the workpiece. On the back here, we're going to connect our center features, so I'm going to leave those blank for now in case we decide to just glue those pieces. So I'm basically going to mimic what I did here on these two boards. So thanks for watching, and we'll be right back with you. All right, we're back, and we are on to the next day working on our desktop project. We've done a couple things that have changed our overall design, and so in an effort to make that work, what we've done is kind of set up our middle pieces, and we glued these up yesterday. After gluing them up, I ran them through the planer, and I'm used to using now a rag and some Danish oil to go over the various pieces. At least for now, we're going to try to create this contrast a little bit more naturally using a combination of tung oil and various Danish oil options. Afterwards, if necessary, I think typically they suggest waiting 72 hours to have a final coat put on this, but given that it is a desktop, we will probably consider that. Again, Danish oil though is different because it penetrates into the wood. It doesn't, unlike stain on the surface, this actually hardens from within the wood, so it does provide a little bit of extra structural support for the desktop. However, the client with this project is planning to use this desktop mainly for a computer setup, and therefore we're not as concerned about the ongoing need for a poly finish, although that's likely recommended for this kind of application. All right, so this is the final product we've been working on for a couple days here at One Love Woodwork. This is an ambrosia maple top from start to finish. We have some varying levels of stain and oils to give this somewhat of a contrast. At this point, the only thing missing from this final desktop is the piece that's going to go here. This client really would like to do a live edge front to it, and so we're going to place that here in this opening, and so when it's finished it'll be framed in with a live edge on this edge. Some alternatives, you know, that look, I think, really nice with this kind of application. Right here you can see we have a butt joint, and that basically just means that this is the back piece that extends all the way to the edge, and then we connect the middle pieces here. Other options are a miter joint at 45 degrees. I think that looks really sharp. It kind of keeps things, your eyes moving towards the center, and so there's a lot of various options you can use here. Tons of stain colors, tons and tons of oils, different products to get into. Very fun to experiment with. So we hope that this project has really encouraged you or inspired you to get out and do something for yourself, or for somebody that you know that may be looking to restore a space in their home, or a new office, for instance. Seems like a common theme these days. This has been a super cool project, one that I know we're going to repeat several times in the next short amount of time. So if that's something you're interested in, please let us know in the comments below what you think and how we might be able to demonstrate something new for you if you'd like. And aside from that, if you haven't already, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. That definitely helps us. And of course the subscription button and the bell if you'd like to know when our next videos are coming out. That definitely helps us understand the content that our viewers are looking for. And as always, I want to thank you for choosing to spend your time with us. We know time is an invaluable resource that cannot be replenished. So every time you're here with us, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is Ashley from One Love Woodwork. Till next time.